Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket 7. We're in the big blind. Hand starts out, folds to the cutoff. I've got a lot of history with the cutoff. 3,000 hands. I have him as just a tight aggressive player here, 17-11. Player we need to pay attention to. It doesn't seem to get out of line a whole lot. Weakness, I think, for him is that I don't think he c-bets quite enough. If he c-bets flop, he's c-betting turn if he has something. So I think when he c-bets flop and then turn, he likely has some sort of hand. It's going to be rare for him to do it as a bluff. Post flop, I think, is when he calls pre-flop raise, I think one of his biggest weaknesses is that he calls c-bets too much. He calls and then he folds turn or river, and this is even in position, out of position. Now the catch is with these lower percentages is that he's playing a stronger range, so he's going to have more hands, relatively speaking, to actually call that c-bet. So relative to what it's most other players. So if he has a stronger range, it means that he's going to connect with the flop, or at least have something that he could continue with more often than a player who's raising, let's say twice the number of hands. He has donked. When we look at stats, I've got a bunch of information here where he ISO raises early position from hijack with 6-5 suited. So he's capable of raising suited connectors. He can check call with trips instead of raise it, check raise. He could check down nines when he's when you have 3 overcards. Check raises flop with second nut with a flush draw, so he doesn't necessarily need to do trips. He's decent, and he opens up for a raise. So when we look at his stats, I have as the cutoff, his raise first sin stats 23%. He's going to be in that probably that 21 to 25% range. I think this is probably what we're looking at here. Maybe has these broadways, but I think these broadways are a little bit more speculative. Maybe he has them, maybe he doesn't. I think he has suited aces, suited connectors, broadways, suited one gappers. I think is probably what he has. I don't think he really has a whole lot of offsuit aces. I just don't think that's necessarily in his range. So he raises, folds to me. I've got sevens in the big blind. Sevens is a decent hand. I think when we think about sevens versus his range, he's going to have a bunch of these cards that, overcards. If they hit the flop, they've got us beat, but we've got a decent hand. I don't think we could just fold it. Our decision, if we're not going to fold it, then we're going to call or we're going to raise. Against the cutoff, I think we're going to have a wider raising range. And when we look at it, that looks to be like the 3 betting range that we could use here. You can see we're raising like all the way down to nines. We could probably raise any of these as well. This is 3-bet call. Against this player, I think we could probably, a possibility that we should raise here. Because if we raise, then his fold to 3-bet's 43%. He's going to be folding a lot of hands, but I'm not sure if we necessarily want him to fold all those hands, because I think we have the possibility of having him make a c-bet, especially if he has like a flush draw or something like that. I think we could 3-bet, we could call. I chose to call here, so we're going to continue as if we called. And I think probably calling is perfectly fine. Sevens helps us protect, all these other hands that we would probably call with, like, these offsuit broadways. So we see a board comes down 4-3-2. with 2 clubs. So we have an over. And this always, I think I've been noticing it in the last few days, this type of situation where I don't really have a strong overpair. I've got a fairly weak overpair on, low card boards. How do I proceed? Oh, and I'm out of position too. I'm out of position. So number one, I don't think we're betting here. I think we 100% check our range. And then villain leads for half pot. So what does villain have here? Well, I don't think he's just doing it as a bluff. So I think he's going to have any of these pairs, bottom pair, middle pair, top pair. I think, we've seen him where if he had a middle pair, let's say 8s or 9s, he's going to be betting here. But if this was like ace king or king jack, I think he would be checking. So here I think it's consistent with at least a pair, plus I think flush draw, open ender, probably gut shot. I think with a gut shot we're starting to get a little too wide. Would he do it with the overcards? Would he do it with a 2-card backdoor flush draw? We've got our flush draw. Let's do this with our 2-card backdoor flush draw. Let's do that. He knows. I think he knows I'm pretty tight. So we're going to give him aces. Ace king, those will kind of be his bluffs, but ace 2, 4, 5, and 6 as a backdoor. And overcards, we'll do those. Ace king, ace queen. He might not have them, but I think that's what we'll do. So 56.2%. I could say he has some draws, but he has quite a few pairs, quite a few over pairs. 38%, 39% of his range here, his c betting range is over pairs. I don't think we should be folding. I think 7s is too good. So could we raise? Could we check raise? I think normally with the check raise, you want to be, like this quasi polarized. You want to have big hands and you want to have hands that could improve to the best hand. So I think a nut flush draw could be a check raised. I think we could probably check raise with like a 5. And where we have like a straight draw, open ender, straight draw. I think 2s and 3s, so trip 2s, trip 3s could be check raised. I think even trip 4s could be check raised, because I think if we check raise and he comes over the top, I think that's going to be pretty telling, or at least it suggests that he has a pocket pair over pair. I'm not sure if just regular 7s is good enough. I think it's good enough for a check call here. So we would say, I think straights and sets and probably 2 pair are raising. Our nut flush draws are raising, and probably our second nut flush draws are raising. I think our open ender is going to be raising. Both the 1 and the 2 card, they're going to be raising. All right, so that means then we will probably be calling. I think we're probably calling 2s, 3s, 4s, so bottom pair, middle pair, etc. And we're probably calling with some gut shots, and probably this 2-card backdoor flush draw is probably what we're going to call. I mean, this board, really like a small board, it's kind of more of a neutral board. He has the equity advantage because he's got the big pocket pairs that I don't really have, but I have a lot, like a lot of the middle cards. We both have all these. I probably have more like the king three, king deuce than he does. So I think we're kind of probably about where we were about even on the flop. I think when we're calling to see what he does. Is there a possibility that he's bluffing here? Maybe. Very small chance is what I would say. And I'm curious what GTO would kind of suggest we do. So, is this going to be a hand that we just call, or is this the hand that we would be check raising here? So I'd called. 3 diamonds fell. So pairs the board. Flush didn't get there. Backdoor straight flushes didn't get there. So we checked. I think that's probably the appropriate play again. We're going to check to the aggressor, and now he bets. He bets 3/4 pot, and that could be a bet that says, I don't want you to call anymore. So maybe it's a top pair. I don't think it's quads or full house. Maybe it could be a straight. Maybe he's betting to protect himself from the flush to get there. So I think straight, 3 of a kind over pair, top pair probably as well. And right now that range is kind of just crushing me, minus the top pair, because with sevens, the only over pairs that I beat are going to be the 5s and the 6s. Do I think he's going to be betting that large with like the straight draws or the flush draws? I don't think so. I think at this point, this is a player that would have been checking it. So he's got a very strong hand. We checked, he bets. What does that do for us? So I think here with that card, we already check raised. Why did the straight? Why is the straight there? And try to figure out why we have a straight here. Oh, that's why. 6-5. And the flush draw. There we go. Okay, so we shouldn't have the straight. We can have 3 of a kind. So I think if we get 3 of a kind, I don't think we're going to be check raising here. I think he's demonstrating that he has an overpair. And if we check raise, well, no, maybe we do. I do think we check raise here. We check raise 3 of a kind plus. And the reason being, if he has an overpair, he's going to come along and we're going to get stacks in. I'm sure we're going to probably get stacks in, or get close anyway. So he bets 9.6. I raise up to 30. He could just call, but my guess is he will come over the top, possibly just shove at that point. I call with a 3, and if I do that, I think he's calling with his overpair, 3 of a kind, probably the straight. I think he doesn't do it with the top pair, and I don't really think he has any of those draws. So I think at this point, he's going to be drawing to 2 outs, unless he has like a 5, and then he's got 5 or 6, and then he also has a straight out. So yeah, I think we're going to be doing that 3 of a kind question. And how often does he call? He's going 46%. He's going to be folding a small percentage of the time. So because of that, maybe we also do it with like a ace-6 of clubs. Maybe. Yeah, 3 of a kind. We've got 4 combos. Ace-6, maybe ace. Yeah, maybe ace-6 or king-6. I think as a flush draw. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll take those out and say those we would have check raised those. So 4 combos of trips and 2 combos of the draw. I think if he shoves, then we just get rid of our draw, our flush draw, and be done with it. Nice thing about, yeah, we just get rid of our draw. All right, so he bets. What hands do we call? I think here, I think we can make an argument for folding here, because I think he's going to have a high percentage of overcards at this point. I just called here. I just called here, and I'm not thrilled with the decision. We are, let's see here, go back to here. We need 30% equity to get it. We're being offered under 2-1, a little more than 3-1. So we're not really getting the odds to draw to the straight draw, open ender. We're not really getting the odds to draw to the flush. So I think on hands that we call, I think it's going to be hands that also have other ways to win. So I think 8-6. It could 8-6 of clubs could catch club or 5. 7-6 of clubs could catch a club or a 6 for the straight or an ace. So I think those flush draws I think can get called. I don't think we're just doing it on any straight draw, so I think it's going to have to be a flush and a straight draw in order to make that call. I don't think we can necessarily call with a top pair, with just any top pair. So like King 4, I don't think we could make that call, but 6-4, 5-4, I think we can, because we have we've got top pair along with some other draw. And then the over pairs, again, I just think we could probably find a fold. I guess we'll leave him in, but I think at this point he's kind of representing that he can beat that overcard. And really, what over pairs are we hoping he has? 5s and 6s. That might be it. So I kind of feel like the over pairs where we need to cut it off and just fold. I called, and then the King of Diamonds comes. It's actually a pretty decent card. I think we have the possibility of bluffing, but I think if I bet, I think any card that was an overpair on the turn is also going to call here. So I don't think we can realistically represent a king at all. I don't think we can represent a king at all. So our bet here is just check. If he bets, probably just fold. So I check. He does bet. He bets half pot. So he did half, then 3/4, and then half. I think he is scared of that king. I think full house straights probably would have just gone ahead and bet larger. Same thing, three of a kind. So I don't think he really has aces. I think he's looking at those hands, which again, of the ones that we beat, I mean, look at it. We beat, these hands, but then we beat 5s and 6s, and that's it. So I called. I don't like the call. I probably should have just folded on the turn. And we see ace 3. So he did have trips, and I didn't have that in there. So when we did 3 of a kind, kind of assumed he would have bet a little bit larger, but it was on the river. I guess it doesn't really matter, because even with all of those hands, we still we're beat, we're crushed. I think we should probably just fold. So what kind of things can we do differently? I think we could raise. If we raise pre-flop, make our 3-bet, he probably still comes along with ace 3. If he folds, it's great. I mean, we pick it up, but think about pre-flop range is 7s versus ace 3. I mean, we do have the edge here. A 3 comes out, which is actually pretty decent. I mean, he's going to pay us we're going to win more money on there. I think we just kind of got a little unfortunate when that 3 came on the turn. And when he bet larger, I think that's our clue that we're probably beat, because I don't think this player is going to be betting as on the draw. And he does have some tendencies, check raise out of position with second nut flush draw. But I don't really have him have played turn draws aggressively. Call 2 half pot or barrel draw, or greater barrels with draws. He could have those draws, but I don't think he would have. I think he would have checked the turn and taken that free card on the river had he had a draw. I think that is this player. So with him betting again, I think we could find the fold and save ourselves some money on the turn. Some would argue that's a weak fold because I have a pocket pair, but I don't know. I don't see the players just kind of betting and barreling. This, especially at this 10 NL game, I don't see a huge number of people doing that just as bluffs. So I think exploitatively we can fold. All right, hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another.